Hi, good evening. It's Jim from maverickstar Observatory. A couple of things I want to get through tonight. I want to show you some statistics on the COVID-19 virus that's going around globally at the moment. It really is pinnacle because of the confusion that everybody seems to be in right now with it, that we do this video tonight. Can't do it tomorrow because, as you know, we've got a workload cut out for ourselves here at the observatory. We'll pull in the SD card out of the Trimag system, out the magnetosphere sensor. We're going to do a CO2 atmospheric reading outside, and we'll also do one inside as well. And we'll also be looking at the figures of muon counts over the last week. So there's quite a lot to do, but before we do, first of all, I've got to say thank you to Andy over on Andology's channel. That's his YouTube channel, if you want to pop over there. The reason why I'm thanking him is because I'm using his, I think it's his 4th version now on the COVID-19 prediction tool that he built. So he's invested a lot of time on that. If you want to go over there, buy the guy a coffee, it'll be well deserved. I'll explain when we get into it a little bit later more about that, because we're going to be looking at that very shortly anyhow. But I have promised one of our little followers on this channel, didn't realise until recently that there was a follower. They live in Lithuania, and it's Amina. So thanks for following us, Amina, and you're our little superstar for the day. Okay, so, and of course, let's not forget the people that are actually supporting us here at the observatory. Today we did see a little bit more support than what we have done over the last few days, and really, guys, it has dropped off. As you can imagine, a lot of attention from people is being diverted to things closer to home with the risks that poses for those loved ones of ours. So what we want to try and do is just put a few things in perspective. So I know I'm only going to be showing you UK data, right, but you will get an idea as to what is being mentioned by your governments with the peak and the cut-off rates and things like that. And I won't be able to do it tomorrow, but I certainly will do a rundown on as many countries as I can physically do in the next few weeks or so, because we're going to be following this, because it's of course took the attention globally of pretty much everyone. So okay, so we're looking at the UK rate at the moment. As you can see, it's probably a little bit more than that at the moment, and we've advanced it slightly on the prediction tool so that you can see it. But we've got 36 deaths and 1,551 people confirmed that are infected. Now, it's very difficult when we're running modelling systems to put the right data in order to get the right data out. So there are 10 variables which are adjustable on Andy's app, so that you can try and manipulate the data to get the exact figure for the death rates and also the confirmed infection rates. Let's have a look what we're talking about. So let's go over to the app prediction tool. So what we're looking at is obviously a highlighted area which is very close to the total amount at the moment currently in the UK with COVID-19, and you can see that the death rate isn't far off either. It's actually 36, but then again, we have added a couple of extra, because every time you move the variables it alters the actual amounts of people that have got the virus. If I just bring you up so you can see what these columns represent. So the first one is the amount of days. You can see that I've set it for 49 days on this occasion to get the numbers of the death rates and the exact total infected people to form something that's very similar to reality. And this is just one of these modeling systems, guys, that can be they're used for weather modeling, as you know, all sorts of predictions, but this is just one that is focused on COVID-19. So we're at 1,666. I know people aren't going to like them sixes there, but you know, we've done our best to match it up to the death rates that's happened already, and you can see that we are in day 49 of the virus. I think the first infection that was detected in the UK was at the end of January, so we're not far off with the days, we're not far off with the numbers, and not far off with the actual death rate. Now you can see that as it goes on from week to week, the amount of deaths that multiply, and you can see the figure down here where, you know, at some point we hit 400 or actually the total death rate of 6.8 million people in here in the UK that pass away from this. So we're going to keep it running with the information that I've put in on there, you know, the mortality rate, the infected numbers, and we're going to keep it running to see how accurate the program is in handling what's going on. But what you've got to bear in mind, and you know, after the British government have just had their Cobra meeting, they have said that different parts of the country are experiencing different rates, and for that reason, you know, the disease is going to spread a lot quicker. I just want to go down to the peak, which is what a lot of governments are talking about, and as you can see, we are on week 49, so we're not even starting to enter the acceleration peak. And I just want to put it in perspective so that you can see the numbers that we're talking about. Okay, so you can't see it, but I can see it, guys. So the numbers that we're talking about here at this point is about 55 million people being infected, and the death rate is just short here in the UK of 8 million people. And you can see that really when we get to day 84 that we start to enter an acceleration in the chart, and it goes right up over a short period of time. It's around about 50 or so days, or maybe, you know, 60 at the most. So in this period of time, there's going to be a lot of dead people, there's going to be a lot of ill people, and it's going to affect our modern day of life now for different countries at different acceleration rates. This is going to come a little bit closer, it's going to come a little bit after, and depending on the population size as well, will be also increasing the bandwidth of the peak. So, you know, in this case, it really starts at 84, ends at 140, where the death rate carries on to 147. In a scenario where there's a larger population, that bandwidth will be slightly wider and cover more days. And of course, if we look at the data on the website, we can see that some countries are advanced where, you know, in numbers and deaths, and others aren't. You will note on this COVID-19 info live that China has not increased, and obviously that's probably because they're not putting out now the numbers of confirmed cases. But if they're at that accelerated position right now, you can guarantee that they are dealing with millions with the virus, and that ain't good. They've got a population of 1 billion. The biggest world's population is there, I believe, and you can imagine that the spread rate over the period of time is going to be a lot longer for them. And that means that, you know, China is going to remain shut down for longer than what they're actually telling people. And we're also seeing a shutdown in Italy, which is going to be extended, and Iran and Spain, South Korea, Germany, France, and even the UK. What they've done in a space of 4 days is, first of all, they was using this herd analogy to, you know, contain the virus and reduce the peak that we've just been looking at here. And the reason why they want to reduce it is because you just can't put 50 million people on the NHS system that's ill. What they're trying to do is not even put anywhere near that number, but you can't avoid the fact that you are going to have to put some of those people on there. And what we're talking about is at least, in this case, as you can see now, the figures are up. You can see we are just short of 5 million people death rate, which is a lot. And they're going to be a majority of elderly people, and they're also going to be those that are vulnerable. That would probably add, like the government mentioned today, leukemia treatment, so chemotherapy, radiotherapy, all those things that reduce your immune system. You're going to be probably the most vulnerable, especially if you're on anti-rejection drugs for, organ transplant that you've had at some point. So, it could be a lot more than what we are actually anticipating. But there you go, it gives you an idea, and it gives you an idea of the acceleration of the infections, these deaths as well. It's going to affect not just the people that are vulnerable, it's also going to affect, if we all pair, the workforce. We look at the data on the workforce here in the UK. It's expected to affect 86% of the entire workforce, and you can't run a country with that many people down. This is going to be similar figures to a lot of other countries, which we're going to go through over the coming days. Obviously tomorrow is set aside for poll shift, but I do know that a lot of people are actually interested in the COVID-19 data and what to expect. So putting it in a bit of a time period for the guys here in the UK, we can expect the peak to fall around mid-June to at the end of June. So we are a good time away from that, and that's why the government haven't really shut down as much as what they are going to shut down, guys. And they are going to shut it down. They're going to lock us down, just like we've seen in Wuhan, China, and in Italy, and we're going to see it happen in Spain and all these other countries first. They're going to start taking more dramatic measures as time goes on, and as the infection rates continue to increase. So it's not good. Globally we are going to lose millions and millions of people as a result of this. And it's almost like I've been describing to my partner, it's almost like a movie. We're watching a movie, only this time it's real. And it is. Guys, I don't know if a modern society can recover from such a thing. I'm not saying it's going to be the end, because we can see that the peak comes and goes very quickly, but it's the repercussions of being here at day 49 to what happens at day 147 that really concern me, because we're already hearing that airline companies are going to ground the fleet, and they are not too optimistic about whether they will be able to return to business as usual after this crisis, because you can see we're in day 49 right now. By the time we get to day 140, when the peak dies dramatically off and the virus has burned itself out virtually in this country, which isn't going to happen completely as well. There's going to be lingering effects. And one thing that I was shocked about tonight is that they did admit that there are going to be cases where people get this virus twice. Now, I was pulled up a couple of days ago in a video where people, where I said, that what I was talking about is different genomes of COVID-19. I was talking about I haven't got it to hand, I think it was RATG13, I think that's the other strand, which is like a mixture of SARS and coronavirus. So there is two viruses out there very similar, and of course if this is what is present in one case, then we're going to have to deal with the other case, and if it mutates more, then we're going to have be dealing with this peak happening more and more and more. So it's not good at all, guys. And the airline companies are the first to be hit, as well as now what will shortly happen, entertainment across the range, because people are being told by the governments not to congregate in large areas of other numbers. So, you know, cinemas, theatres, local pubs, public houses here in the UK, and clubs and nightclubs and things like that are going to lose a lot of business. And it's not as if these businesses haven't been walloped already with, you know, the changes that governments have made with regards to, you know, things like smoking in public. You know, that has ended a lot of pubs, because obviously people, you know, that smoke don't go to them that much, and not everyone wants to stand outside having a smoke in the rain. But to be honest, that really is not of importance at the moment. What is of importance is the vulnerable people that are going to die clearly of this disease, and they're going to die in a very short period of time when it starts to get into its peak, and it will do that, guys. Already, I cannot believe here in the UK people are saying, I'm not going to get paid sick pay by my employer, so I'm going to go out there and it's business as usual. Well, all is that's going to do is, you know, spread the infection even more. I can understand nobody wants to lose the mortgage, and the government haven't said that they're going to pay for people's mortgages whilst they quarantine themselves. They're asking the British public to take everything on the chin and deal with it themselves. They're expecting the British public to, you know, not only self-quarantine, but do without, you know, the salaries that they would normally have if they was going about business as usual. So not only that, we're seeing a lot of small businesses already, and we're not even in the peak of this, go under. You know, if you look at the stock markets around the world, they're all pretty much down 10%. And this is why the Bank of England said, you know, we could see half the world's wealth wiped off. And that, guys, it's an unprecedented figure. That means your house, what its value is today, will be, at the end of this, most likely worth half. That means the $10 or the £10 you have in your pocket today will be worth £5 at the end of this. That's half the world's wealth. And, you know, what we experienced in 2007 with the recession, you can only amplify probably 50 times more. It's going to be that bad, guys. So, you know, that's why I'm saying to you now, you know, sort yourselves out. And, you know, you can see how fast the peak of this rises and how many people it infects, and that's just in a population of 65 million. So, you know, when we look over to the United States with over 300 million, we know how it's going to affect them. We know how it is definitely going to affect China with a population size of 1 billion, and for the prolonged period of time that it is going to affect them. And if they continue to keep the lockdown scenario, which I believe is what's going to be the case, then, you know, we're going to find ourselves having to produce the goods that we used to rely on from China ourselves, which, you know, is a hell of a lot. I've heard the figure of about 100,000 containers coming from China or leaving China every single day. And, you know, you've only got to do a little bit of research on YouTube to see the conditions of dockyards around the world at the moment, and the impact that those exports not leaving China has had already. You know, it is incredible. So, you know, we are looking, as you can see, population decline here in the UK from 65 million to just shy of 58 million, which is a big loss of population. You can see the total deaths there, just under 7 million or thereabouts. And you know, just a couple of other graphs to show you population infected vs uninfected. Well, 68% is infected. I think it's a lot more than that. I think these figures are safe. I think we're looking at 93% infected. Then we've got infected, recovered, and deaths. And you can see the fatalities are around about 10%, which is more than what is being shown. If we have a look on the website right now, we can see that the death rate of the UK is actually 2.3%. But to get these figures to fall in line with the date and the amount of people with the virus and the death rates, we had to alter the mortality rate, and I'll just have a quick look at that. But while we're here, I'll just show you the other countries, and as you can see, pretty much now every country has at least one case, and and in some worst case scenarios, there are countries now with over, in my estimations, if we look at China, and they've had this rate now fixed for a long time, the confirmed rate, I think they're well into the early stages of the first million, and that is boom time for this virus. You can see the condition around the world where the infections are starting to now pop up, and you can see the countries that are heavily infected: China, most of Europe, the UK, America, and we're starting to see these regions go darker now, like Canada and Russia. It's a bit of a surprise why the numbers are so low there, but I think it's just a case of not being confirmed at the moment. But there are, if there is this virus in this many parts of the world, then Russia are not avoiding it themselves. So guys, it's quite scary when you think about it. The workforce disruption, as you can see, is 86%, and it's hard to think how you can run a country for 60 days on that number of people working, and it's just knock-on effects of all these things. If people aren't moving stock around in warehouses, shops aren't getting the stock if people are off work, because now we've been told to isolate ourselves for not just 7 days but for 14 days. That number may go up as well the more we learn about this infection. So you can just imagine what is coming down the road, guys, and this is really starting to now be noticeable when you go out to the shops here in the UK. I've popped in a few. At first it was, for some reason, toilet paper, hand wipe, hand sanitizers, that sort of thing, but now it is the food that is being wiped off the shelves, and I don't think that there is enough food even in the country, if it comes down to it, to feed everybody. So we're just going to see more mortality rates as a result of a lot of the things. First of all, you think it wasn't possible that people would starve, but people might be isolating themselves, frightened to go out, and they'll starve in their house. They may starve because they can't afford to buy food, and we're already seeing greedy little shop owners whack up the prices on certain produce because they know people will pay for it. And this is just some of the behavioural problems we're going to have to deal with in the coming days, guys. It's going to get crazy. And on top of that, we've got world leaders, pointing fingers and making allegations, which could in turn lead to wars being started. Matters can be made worse from this point on, is what I'm saying. So just bear that in mind, guys. We are in very, very dark days, and they're not set to get any better over the short space of time. So I'm going to leave it here, guys. I'll mention the link down there. Obviously, it is imperative that we keep the observatory going, not just for the fact that we are covering the main anomalies that are taking place on our planet, but also now keeping you informed with what's going on with the coronavirus, and where we are, and at a later date what to expect at certain points. We are all rapidly moving towards this peak in our own countries, and we're going to have to go through it. And I really can't emphasize enough that if you do know of vulnerable people, first of all, don't put yourself in their vicinity. if you don't know that you've got the virus, or even if you have, you know, you could be still carrying it, even though you're not, or you've got over it yourself. You could still be carrying it on your hands, you know, on your clothes. So, you know, what you'll need to do is just be vigilant of these vulnerable people and try and assist them in a way where you don't put them at even more risk, you know. So that's the main thing, really, you know. And like I have done today, I've suggested that my parents now quarantine themselves. You know, they're both in their 70s, so but just keep a vigilant eye out for that elderly person that probably lives on his own in your street, and you know, offer some assistance where you can, and work with each other. That's the main thing. And you know, we'll keep you informed as best we can here at the observatory. So I'm going to leave it here, guys. There's a link down there if you want to help support the observatory. You know, great. It's not mandatory, but you know, obviously I don't think many people want to see the maverickstar observatory disappear off the face of the map, and for that reason they might want to support it. But there you go. Okay, you take care, guys. As always, I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.